One of the biggest news stories of 1996 was Nash and Hall making the big jump, becoming the outsiders. But has any thought been given to the prospect of Kevin and Hall staying? What if the outsiders stayed inside? And what if that became the premise of a guest booker exercise with a former booker, writer, you'll tell me the difference and what they mean, who was involved in the angle? It's Kevin Nash joining us, and we're just going to let us climb inside his head, examine the creative mind. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Have you ever given any thought to where could this have gone if we?
I think everybody in life gives like that butterfly effect to like everything that's major. Like, if I go to Michigan State and don't go to Tennessee, I'm on a national championship team. What am I? Do I die in a car wreck 3 weeks later?
Right.
So you just, it's one of those things where you never know. But of course, we've, played that scenario a million times.
Right. Do you have a personal booking philosophy? What works?
I think heat. I think the business is driven by heels.
Kind of an old school philosophy. Are you an old school guy?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I grew up, big time wrestling in Detroit. The Sheik was the heel, and he was also the booker. And
where's Pampiro Firpo?
I don't know.
I'm gonna find him.
He was at. I swear to you, he was at. I take that back. I met him in the lobby of WrestleMania in New Orleans.
So he's still with us?
Yes, I'm almost positive.
Wow.
Because of course the only person on earth that would have known that was him was Sean Waltman, who was standing next to me. I'm almost positive, Kev, that's Firpo.
Did you talk to him?
Yes.
Oh, well, okay.
My memory's not great anymore, but I'm pretty sure that was who that was.
What are the most important qualities of a good booker?
I think you got to be. You have to listen. I think that the guys that are really good bookers realize that a good idea can come from anywhere, and not necessarily somebody that's been in the business for 25 years. A good idea is a good idea, and it's the ability to take an idea, even though it might be sketchy, and be able to fine tune it and put it into action.
Mm-hmm. How about a bad booker? What don't you want from your booker?
Anybody that's a dictator, anybody that's my way or the highway, because
an Ole type, maybe. Fair to say.
Yeah, but he hired me, so I'll always have an affection for him. But he was a prick.
You didn't have much say, right, in what was going to happen?
No, nor should I had any say when I came in.
Maybe you, but talent sometimes should have some say.
I think so. I think when you're in charge of 70 or 80 pieces of talent, I think a lot of times that talent, especially if he's a seasoned talent, has a much better conception of where his character is, where it is going, where it should go, than you kind of, all of us as talent are, using the fine-tooth brush to do the details, while everybody else is kind of, the booker basically, he's trying to do a masterpiece, but he's actually trying to do a Pollock. Mm-hmm. He just kind of
throwing it on.
Yeah, just seeing what happens. So,
how much should you listen to the fans if you're a booker? We're there for them. You're there for them, obviously, but can you really allow their whims to dictate your vision? What's that balance?
The business has changed in so many leaps and bounds, to where it was like in the early days, you were booking, like say you were booking Florida Championship Wrestling, and you were basically doing episodic house shows,
right?
That were following TV, and so that was a different style of booking. Now I think that you have to listen to some degree that if this guy's selling, 5-to-1 merchandise over everybody else, and you're not utilizing him, that there is a reason. I mean, if that's kind of the people's choice, I think you have to give. But at the same time, if the other intangibles aren't there, if he can't go 25 minutes, you can't put him in a main event. You don't want WrestleMania going 9 minutes in your main event. So I mean, there's definitely intangibles there, but at the same time, I think that you have to look, especially now that there's really only one entity, that you have to look and listen to what the collective people are saying.
When you were working creatively in WCW, did your ideas come from pop culture? Where were you pulling stuff from?
Yeah, I mean, I think that wrestling, like when I was, and it's one of those situations too. The only show that I ever was able to book was the first Thunder that I did, and it was from Indianapolis, and the show was where Hogan and myself and Hall were watching the black and white NWO through a camera, and how they were just kind of acting throughout the day. And that was like, that was I wrote that show that was kind of my show. And then after that, I thought it was a pretty tight show. And after that, it was just like, I just lost everything.
What do you mean?
All of a sudden, there was people that had their hands in everything.
Oh, so you didn't have the autonomy. You were still working creatively with them, but like other people's ideas were watering down?
All of a sudden, all of a sudden it was just like, well, you're not really the head booker. You're just the person that's in charge because you're the big grouchy fucker that everybody will listen to.
Who else is in the room at those times? It was you, Rick?
No, Rick wasn't in there.
No, Rick. Okay.
It was Dusty, Kevin, JJ, Mike Graham, Bob Mould.
I was going to say, were you there for the Bob Mould?
Yeah, Bob Mould was there. But then, the thing about Bob is, and I've always been friends with Bob, and we became pretty good friends with him, like, immediately. Like, the first day they brought him in, I just looked at him, and I said, Bob, what do you think? He says, a lot more fighting, a lot less talking. And I went, okay. Like, specific. That's like too much bullshit.
Right. Okay, so what's the ratio? Give me, you jumped ahead of me. What's the ratio for the television show? Give me in-ring, give me promos and / entertainment skits. What are we talking?
I've always had the concept that a wrestling television show should be shot exactly like the Gary Sandling show was. So when the Gary Sandling, remember, like, the Gary Sandling show, if it was live during the talk show, it looked like the Tonight Show.
Yes.
And then
shooting on video for that, and then back to film for the real life stuff. And then, so change the visual look of it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because then you can do things like when you go backstage and two guys are cutting a promo that's live, and they cut it, and as soon as they say cut and they get out of that, because it's a promo, then you switch to a boom, say cut, and now two guys walk up.
And something can happen.
Right.
Right.
And it doesn't, instead of this one camera bullshit thing that we watch week after week after week, and the guys that have been there the longest know to stand close to the camera so they look like they're 9 feet and 600 pounds.
What's a wrestling writer? What's a wrestling booker? Are they the same?
Writers are, if they have a knowledge, I think, if a person's a fan, he grew up and was a fan, I think what happened was a lot of people, because it's good on your resume, it's just like, I'll write, like Freddie Prinze was a writer. Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yes.
was a writer. I mean, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to work with him. But when you come back and a guy is in charge of basically writing your verbiage, and it's 2011, and he looks at you and he says, I was looking at some old Diesel promos, and you're like, oh, like really? Were they going against Isaac Yankem that week, or like really? That's like we're going to the vault. This is what we're doing. And on top of that, having somebody write your verbiage.
Why is it done? I mean, everyone complains about it. Everyone says, "Could you believe they give Ric Flair a script?" Okay, so why is it being done? Is it just to control what comes out of people's mouths for fear they might curse? Or
well, I think it is. I think that you don't have to be edgy anymore. There's nothing. I was on a podcast, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago, and I just said that, that with the network, like, why can't they have like an adult show? It doesn't have to be on USA Today. I mean, USA Channel.
Right.
But I mean, they can be on the network.
I think we talked about that here once. Like you said, do Raw at 11 o'clock on Friday,
right?
And do Superstars every other night or something.
Right.
Yeah, no, I got.
I mean,
well, publicly traded company. How edgy can you be? Is it too scary because the kids?
I mean, Warner Brothers publicly traded. I mean, I look at it this way: if you can't be as edgy as Deadpool, you're not going to resonate in this because after Deadpool came out, that bar is now set here, and if you're anything below that, you're horse shit. Right. And if you don't realize that when you walked in there and watched that movie and went, "Oh, so this is where it's going,"
right?
If that light bulb doesn't go off and you think we're going to start off the next television show with a bunch of guys standing with a ladder in their ass, and that's going to catch my interest. Though I did kind of like the Jericho scarf.
Talk to me about teams or committees, large groups of people making creative decisions.
To me, it's like being in a war room and everybody has an agenda. No matter what, there's 2 or 3 guys working their angle. I mean, it ends up always splitting into. It's like I'm sure it's no different than Congress or anything else. There's subcommittees and subcommittees within subcommittees, and
should there be a singular vision, though? I mean, a film has one director. There's producers, there's writers, there's a lot of, but there's one vision.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that should be, and it is. I mean, WWE is Vince McMahon. I mean, you can say whatever you want to. At the end of the day, what goes on that television show is his vision, and will always be until he decides not to do it anymore.
Who are some guys you've worked with as a wrestler that you thought might have had it to be a booker, but never got the shot or never wanted to?
Scott Hall.
Right.
I think he's brilliant. I mean, Shawn Michaels is brilliant. X-Pac, kid's brilliant.
How about a name that would surprise me? Someone maybe I would never think of. Like,
Raven.
Yeah, no.
He's smart. He gets it.
Mm-hmm. Would Scott ever want to do that?
I'm sure that at this point in his life he might be more receptive to being a part of some kind of, as far as there being, it's gotten too convoluted for it not to be what it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think that he would be somebody. I mean, geez, just finish. I mean, he's just every aspect of it: psychology, finishes, promos, heat. Scott's a really brilliant guy.
Mm-hmm. People complain about the writing being kind of stale and uninspiring in WWE. What could they do to light a fire? Other than the edginess, you said, bring some edginess back in a separate show.
And it's just, if they're so concerned. I mean, but the people that have adopted NXT as their wrestling. I mean, that's a very different psychology. It's a very fight orientated. The storylines aren't over the top. It's basically, if you're better than me, then why don't you have this championship? You know, if you're better than me, then why don't you beat me? If you want my girl, why don't you take her? You know, it's those things that's, you know, we used to be tag partners, now we're not. Is there a problem? Yes, there is.
The basics.
Yeah, that's, you know. I remember Eric Bischoff a long time ago saying there's like only really 5 stories to tell in wrestling. You know, there's like 5 angles, and he went through them, and I looked at him and he said, you know, then he would give variations of them. I couldn't disagree with him.
Mm-hmm.
There really are only so many stories.
Can TNA be saved?
You know, the production quality has gotten so bad as they move down. You know, I don't know what their production. I mean, it just looks like they're, you know, it looks like they're shooting on $60,000 an episode or something like that. You know, and when you've got, I never have understood why anybody that's shooting a studio show would not. I mean, to me, to shoot a studio show, then you have to take your production quality and do, like, anything backstage should be POV. You know, I mean, you have the single shot, you know, shotgun miking, like all that stuff. It's got to go out the window, because the only place that you can challenge him is in the. I mean, you watch daytime soap operas, and the production quality destroys them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's they're not spending that much money, so it's like, if they can do it. And my thing is too, when you're not working, like these guys are on contract, and they're not working 220 dates. So when you go into TV, you have a call sheet, you have your scenes, you go in on Sunday, you shoot all your backstage stuff, you know, you come in on Monday, the guys that have matches, well, they work their matches out. If they've got, hopefully you were smart enough to do their stuff that's going to air pieced in before their matches and after it. Anything after, of course, you'll have to do after. But just to be able to give the person, when he gets to television, he's not hampered on what he's going to do athletically in the ring by somebody falling behind on pre-tapes. And then him getting, you know, this push. Well, we've got to get this. Okay, now we're going to shoot it live. Well, you can't do that to somebody. You can't shoot something live when you've conditioned them to be on the trapeze every single time with a net. We're just not going to put the net up tonight.
That's a production standpoint and an organization standpoint. Right. Do they have problems creatively?
I've never sat in one of their meetings. I have no idea. I think that I don't watch their program as much as I used to, but I actually think that the program right now is probably in the 30%, like the top 30% of the tenure that it's been around. Just the actual, you know, the stories and things like that. I think that it's going in the right direction. It's just one of those things where, you know, if somebody put a gun in my head and said, what channel is it on? I'd be like, Destination, Disney US, something, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Your personal booking background, what was there a moment in your youth where you realized that what you were watching was controlled by someone else?
No, because I watched it until probably I was like 10 years old, and then I kind of started playing basketball, and then I became, like, basketball took over my life. So I really didn't start watching wrestling again until I blew my knee, and I came back, and it was like the Saturday Night Main Event era with Hogan and that. So that's kind of, I had that much of a gap where I really didn't, I had no, no link to pro wrestling.
But in coming back and watching it later on, you obviously knew what you were watching was
Right.
theater. What are some angles or storylines from that time that you thought were influential or made an impact on you?
I remember the slow turn of Orndorff on Hogan, and you knew he was going to turn.
Sure, yeah.
But that was just done. That's
for it.
yeah. But I mean, can you? There's not even opposition, and they couldn't wait that long now.
Right.
They would hot shot
Right.
that son of a bitch in a week.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just those things that, and like I said, I'll say this to the day I die. Why was the show so much better when Vince and Pat Patterson sat there with a fucking legal pad and wrote the show? And you could walk into Vince's office on January the 6th and go, "Where do you see me at SummerSlam?" He'd go, I see you right now, probably with Mabel.
Were they able? Lucky you. Were you were you able to do that because not just of the singular vision of just a couple of people, so they could go crazy and book as much as they wanted, but because they weren't chasing the quarter hour.
Right.
They didn't have to mix it up every week and go, well, this worked last week, so let's, that's the rate. They weren't chasing ratings. They were trying to fill arenas.
Right.
That's largely the reason, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think the business has changed. There was also, the universe. Like there are days, I'll go 3 or 4 days where I'll watch maybe the nightly news. I might watch a little CNN, and then I don't watch any television. Like everything else is off my smart, I watch Netflix, or it's like something else. Like I don't even watch television. Like that's another thing. Everything's DVR'd now. I couldn't tell you what, what's the preacher on? I have no idea. I don't know what channel it's on.
It just fetches it for you.
Yeah, it fetches me, and I go through and see preacher, and I put it on.
Were your aspirations to become involved in the creative aspect of wrestling born out of a desire to be a creative individual, or from working as a wrestler for so long saying, I listen to me for a minute?
I mean, when Scott and I came in, we had a lot of control, and we used that control, and it worked, because we did understand, because we were in that Shark Tank environment, coming in from the WWF then, we did have that Shark Tank environment of like, fuck you, get over. Like, like get over at everybody's costs. And everybody had that, all the top guys. Everybody was protecting their shit. We just so happened to have 5 top guys that were protecting their shit as a collective whole, which gave us a little bit more stroke. And it's hard to end around 5 guys when you got 2 or 1.
Right.
You're fucked. And if you got Sean, who's not afraid to go and bury him to Vince, or anybody else, it's just like, you start to get a relationship, and Vince is looking at it going, well, those 5 guys are in 3 of my last matches.
Yeah.
So, we started to get that power. Then when we made the transition, Scott and I, to go to Turner, it was just like there were so many people that would, at the end of the night, be sitting around going, what are we going to do for a finish? And we just go. And, like Scott and I would just wait it out. Because you can't, one thing that's really hard to do, with 3 minutes before bell time on the main event, it's real hard to shoot down a finish. What do you got, bitch? Nothing. Let's do it then.
Yeah. Oh, that's your music, by the way.
Yeah. See you out there calling the ring. No, it's the truth.
How'd you come to be on the creative team officially? Who goes to bat for you?
I don't know who did. I don't know why I was put on it. I was asked by Eric. I think I was the last guy with a fucking coonskin cap on the wall of the Alamo. It was one of those things where he had so much pressure coming in from the other tower. They've always wanted to shut him down.
Right.
We were in a skid, and I just think he wanted somebody that, I think Eric trusted me, and I think he kind of looked at me as a friend, we were both from Detroit. We kind of had like a mutual. Detroit guys always have like a thing. You know, purposely fuck a Detroit guy over. And no, I think that he was just looking for somebody to just kind of like, you know, let him like, can you take this a little, like take a little bit of this shit and let me catch my breath. He was never out of the picture.
Let's play some word association.
Sure.
I'm going to give you some names of people who are involved creatively in WCW. Tell me what your feelings are on them. J.J. Dillon.
JJ's old school, but I think he has really good knowledge. I think that he never was a person that like would blurt. He always digested and added. You know, I think he was a very good sous chef.
Gotcha. Right.
Wasn't the main
back
guy.
up for you pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
but
well,
he was good.
Johnny Ace.
Wasn't involved a lot creatively back then with us. He was more kind of brought in to just kind of. I think what you know, and I don't know this for a fact, but I think that he sat down with Siegel and said, you know, these guys with these high price contracts are showing up to TV whenever the fuck they want to, and we can put a finding program in and probably get 10% of that money back. So I think that's kind of
okay.
Yeah, he kind of
Sullivan, someone who was certainly part of the creative.
Oh, geez, I mean, I think he could. I think if the WWE were to put him in any kind of capacity right now, the program would improve.
Greg Gagne, man, apparently responsible for getting Hulk Hogan over there.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that Greg did. I remember one time in passing when I was Master Blaster, he just walked by me at center stage. He said, "New World Order." And I just said to myself, like, what does that mean? Is this an Illuminati? Like, what? And then I found out years later that he had actually not only booked the entire WCW NWO angle, but had booked the Japan angle prior to that.
That preceded the NWO.
So I mean, just pure genius.
Okay.
I mean, anybody that that could actually even get in the ring and have a body and a fucking skull like that is, I mean, that's just balls. I don't give a fuck who your dad is. Just to show up and to go over and look like that, that's just balls.
Okay. I'll give props for that. Bob Ryder.
Bob was an organizational guy. You know, Bob was. I think he had. You know, I know he had strong opinions, but I don't. He was never you know. This I think.
Okay.
Sometimes you got to have that.
Dusty.
You know, he and I went back and forth so many different times, but the one thing about Dusty was, I mean, he was like a fucking guy that threw a knuckleball. I mean, he could fucking throw that ball all day long. His elbow, you don't like that idea? You don't like that one? It wasn't like you sit over in Dusty be over there like.
What percentage of them were viable, though, of the knuckle? What could you hit?
It's like kind of a Hoyt Wilhelm in his 50s. You can get a few of them.
Okay. You could bat 200, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, but at 200, that's pretty damn
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, Major League.
I loved. I mean, we had words before because he, you know, pulled a couple of things while I had, you know, where they went back to the office and booked, and we went to Atlanta, and you know, just different things where they like him and Annette and Craig Leathers went and booked their own show.
What do you mean book their own show?
Like they booked their Monday Night Nitro and we booked ours, and they were gonna like come in and say who has the better show.
So two teams show up on Monday.
Yeah.
With two separate formats.
Yeah.
Who makes that call? Eric, I guess, right?
There was no call to be made.
Okay.
I'd already kiboshed the call before. I said, I don't have a problem going home. I get paid the same.
Did you have words with him over it, or?
I pulled him in Atlanta in Phillips Arena. I said, don't you ever do that again. I'll cut your fucking head off.
What does he say?
Just looked at me like, eh.
Bill Banks.
Never really worked with him.
Bill Dundee?
You know, Dundee was was managing the Hollywood Blondes, and I was traveling with Austin and Pillman and Dundee, doing the B-Towns in WCW, and that motherfucker had some knowledge. I mean, I never, but he had knowledge. And I'll tell you another thing. To be a vicious heel and be 5'4", you've
got to be good.
yeah.
Yeah.
You got, I mean, and fucking be believable.
Yeah.
It's like Sullivan. My son will watch fucking Sullivan tapes from Japan where he just, just brutalizes people to this day.
Disco.
Good. I mean, I think he's one of those guys. He might throw 1,000 things out there. One might stick, but it's going to be good.
Ric Flair.
Rick was Rick had the pencil for a while when there was, to me, it just felt at the time he got it, there was so much, like, it was between him and Dusty and everybody. It was that whole nepotism. This kid's son, this guy was like, kind of that Charlotte territory was kind of taking over WCW. I didn't think they looked out for Sting very well. They weren't really looking out for Luger. But I mean, as far as knowing the business, there's nobody knows the business better than Ric Flair. I just think that Rick came from an era where you take care of yourself, especially when you're the man that's going from territory to territory. And you've got to you got to draw on each one of those territories. So his perception and his game plan and his booking style, go with what he was doing. Going from territory to territory and being the man. It's not being stationary, in a territory for 4 years and having, so I mean that, he was brilliant at what he did, and there's nobody that's done it better before, I'm sure, or ever afterwards. So, I mean, Rick has that brilliance, but it's just a different, it's apples and oranges.
Yes. Jeremy Borash?
Good mind. I mean, I think he had a good mind.
Terry Taylor.
That's great.
Vince Russo.
Vince, I liked Vince Russo. I liked Vince Russo because Vince Russo had a very different approach. And Vince Russo, at this time, see, when they brought him in, Vince had young boys. And and Vince was smart enough to watch his sons and see that they had absolutely no fucking attention span. So by the time you cut a 10-minute promo, they were done. They were gone.
Yeah.
And they didn't give a fuck about work rate, and he knew that. So to have a 5-segment match, it was like they don't want to see a 4-minute match. Why are we going to give them a 21-minute match?
Why did people not understand what you're saying? There was a very big backlash against Vince, and people go so far as to say, he killed aspects of
Oh yeah, but when you
wrestling.
go down to Atlanta, and you have his accent, it's the only thing missing is a blue uniform and a torch.
Mike Graham.
Good mind. His dad had an incredibly successful territory, Florida Championship, learned well from his father. I always liked him because he was never, like a lot of people, man, when you get in a hole, you get doom and gloom. He was always so upbeat. You got to have that, the glass half full guy. And he's that guy.
Hulk Hogan.
When it comes to the aspect of drawing money, like what works. I mean, he has a steadfast, but he had gotten stagnated, and then like being with Scott and I, like we kind of gave him like our opinion. He took our opinion and put it with his opinion, and it kind of changed him a little bit, not a lot, but I think that that transition from those, like from that character to Hollywood to that in between character, like he went out and stole WrestleMania with Rock,
Yeah.
stole WrestleMania with Vince. I mean, he stole like several big shows, you know, and it was him. It was Hulk doing that.
I don't think this can be overstated enough. I've talked to you on camera about it. I talked to Bischoff about it. There's no earthly reason that Hulk Hogan, the Hulk Hogan I grew up with, the only Hulk Hogan that anybody knew in 1995 or whatever, 3, whatever, was the big, overblown promos to the point of unbelievable, maybe, because that's, you know, we need cartoons in the
Right.
80s. There's no earthly reason that Hulk Hogan should have succeeded in the model of what the NWO was.
No.
No way that square peg should have went in the round hole. Yet it did, and he was able to run with that, and phase 2 of Hogan's career.
But they also did a good job. They did a really good job. The first time we went down to cut NWO promos, we went down there, and Scott and I have always just talked in sound bites. And we were, hey, babe, bro, babe, we were going back and forth being chill. And Hogan just went on like a 5-minute rant. And every time the ball was in his court, he just, brother, let me tell you,
Right.
brother, let me tell you, son, brother. So we got done for like the first 2 hours, and we went out, and there was a picnic bench out there. And I looked at Scott, and I said, dude. And he looked at me like, we're looking at each other like, this is not going to fucking work. So Eric, who's very fucking smart, was like, walked out there like, he goes, we can make this work. He goes, edit-wise, we can make this work.
Right.
And they did that. They just sound those black and white interviews. Then when Hogan went out there, he started to modify what he was doing to the point where it was, you know, he did a lot more talking and a lot less brothering.
One could tell that it was trimmed to be favorable. But something I always saw, that I don't even know if it's true, I never asked anybody, was the decision to go black and white, shaky, grainy, distracting. Was it to kind of put a haze over the face and all that shit that Hogan was doing? Was the decision made after filming?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Good decision.
I think Neil Pruitt had a lot to do. Neil Pruitt had a lot of things. That's a name that will never get enough credit for that era of pro wrestling, was Neil Pruitt.
Huh.
He came up with the logo. He came up with the New World. That's him saying New World Order on that music. That was him. Like he did a lot of really innovative. He was very, you know, he was important to the company.
Eric Bischoff.
Eric Bischoff is, when you lay something out to him, he has to be able to, you have to lay it out like you're looking at a television. He's completely visual. If you can lay it out for him, and as you lay it out, he's looking at it and seeing it happen, he'll know, like, okay, yeah, that's money, or that blows. If you like shoot it from on top and do the specifics of, you know, the moves and all that, he just wants like, what are you guys trying to do here? What's the concept? But there were so many things that we did. Like I thought when we took the Steiners and turned their car over. Like my idea for that angle was that the Steiners would press charges. Like they didn't. And like people bought that on that Saturday afternoon show.
Right.
And it'd be a case where the tape that X-Pac had in his video was the only tape of it. That goes into the evidence, and we go in, and it's back and forth, and it's the artist renditions of the Steiners on the stands, and have like they use the CNN people to say this court case is going on, and finally when it's like time for the verdict, they go to put the tape in, and the tape's blank, and they turn around, the guy that's in the property room peels his Atlanta cop thing, and there's the NWO gimmick, and it's you do 8 weeks of TV without touching, go off to another angle, and now you build this thing up, and the Steiners want to kill you. And now you've got CNN, you use these things around you.
Yeah.
They got so much shit over what happened on Saturday. On Monday, after they flipped their card, the Steiners came out and kicked the shit out of us. I'm like, well, what the fuck did we spend 5 hours shooting that shit for?
Well, all right, so why? Why did it happen?
Because
Who is impatient?
they just, if they got, like, if anybody from the other tower said, are you guys killing people over there? Like the Rey Mysterio dart thing, all that shit was nixed immediately. Oh, no, there's nothing going on. We'll just move from Disney.
This is standards and practices people,
Whoever.
or
ballless.
when you say the other tower, just explain what you mean.
Yeah, I mean them, but they also just they never wanted wrestling.
Right.
And God, when Time Warner got into Turner, that was bad enough. And then when AOL got in, now you
Right.
got a bunch of silicon heads.
Yeah, that was
they
the
don't give
beginning
a
of the
fuck.
end.
Yeah,
Ed
but I
Furr.
killed it
Ed Furr.
because I bought AOL.
Ed Ferrara.
Ed was good. Ed was good. Ed, but I think Ed and Vince were both better together than separate. I thought they were. I thought when they brought them in, they were really going to do something. They cut their balls in 3 weeks, and I told them it was coming too, because I was in the transition party as they came in, and then they was just like one day they just told me you're not going to be in the room, because they knew I'd already sided with Ed and Vince.
So you knew at that point.
Oh,
that,
I knew right then.
Yeah.
I mean, they had. I tell you, it was about 3 weeks, and they just said, "You guys ain't getting a run."
And they'd committed to all that money. They did that with everybody.
Yeah,
Committed to a lot of money. Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash. How was he as a booker?
How was he as a booker?
I guess, from my standpoint, when I watched David Copperfield make the Statue of Liberty disappear, I'm under the presumption that everybody on Earth knows that it's really not disappearing.
Right.
And I try not to fucking, completely insult the intelligence of the people that are watching that, aren't an iron lung. But,
Is that a Chief J?
Chief J Strabo. Love you, Chief. But at the same time, I mean, I think there has to be like pop culture. There has to be like we tried to get hip hop in. They cut all these deals with Master P's guys and all this. I'm like, I just sit there and just, you don't understand. Placate this for 5 weeks so we can have I said, we get Master P to perform at the Superdome with his nephew. I said, then we get Snoop in Atlanta. That's all we want out of this deal. Those 2 performances, and that's all we want. We don't want to have an angle with and here's Master P at that point, who's worth about $50 million, and Eric lets him sit down in that log cabin in the fucking front of it, and they're looking at me like, dude, I thought you were fucking cool. Like, they got us down here like a bunch of ham and eggers. Yeah. And I was thinking like this is not going to be good.
What were your goals when you were put on? What was something you wanted to see in a large fashion happen?
There was so much upheaval with the underneath, like Benoit, all those guys, and they all said that we were holding them down. And the first pay-per-view that I booked, Benoit beat Sid for the world title, and he left the next TV.
Right.
He won it Sunday. He left Cincinnati TV on Monday. So it was one of those deals where, I said to them, because they all, Vanilla Midget and all that shit, all that is just to fuck with you. That's just to fuck with you. That's just keep you in check. Because you are a midget. To me, you're a midget. I can say that. You can't look at me and fucking say, no, I'm not. I'm the same size as you. So that should keep you in check. At the same time, you know what? Fuck it. Nothing else has worked. Let's give all these guys a shot. I was going to run with all of them.
Were you going to run with them, or are you going to go ahead?
Why would I put Rey Mysterio over in Sacramento?
Yeah, well, that's where Ray's, special maybe.
Of course he is. But my whole thing was, when I took the book, I put Rey Mysterio over because I said, guess what? If second biggest guy in the company can put the smallest guy over, I don't want to hear another fucking word about I'm not putting those little guys over. Because I knew that was going to be the next thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, Nash, you know. No, fuck, I don't know. Because we ain't pushed him. They carried the fucking show for the first hour for fucking 2 years. Let's fucking give him a shot.
How aware are you of what's going on WWE TV when you're booking for WCW?
We're
watching everything they're doing. Yeah.
I mean, they're giving you quarterly breakdowns, like they're, If you could have got injury reports and Sable, like when Sable was going to come out, those would have been like booking gems, inside trading tips.
Right.
Because Sable would always pull a number.
Take me behind the scenes in a WCW booking session. I was surprised to hear from Glenn that they weren't held in CNN Tower or turned. They were in, was it a building in the woods somewhere? Where was this other building?
Log cabin fucking drive. Horrible.
Right. Does someone run the meetings, or is it free form where someone can throw a hand up and say, I got some stuff?
Well, the biggest problem you had, can we use the board?
Yeah, well, we're going to when we do the booking. You want it now?
Well, I mean, because I can just set it right here and just diagram this.
Let's get that over here.
Because this is what people never understood about the process.
Marker.
I need a marker. So, does this come up okay?
Yeah, that'll come up.
All right. So now you come in, and so first thing you got to do is you got to come in and you got to do Monday's show. So we got Monday, we got Nitro, 3 hours. Okay? So after that, on Tuesday, we're going to do Thunder. So we got to do 2 hours. Well, Thunder's taped. Mm-hmm. So in order to do Thunder, you have to write this 3-hour Nitro.
Oh, right.
So that Thunder makes sense. So now you're writing...
Right.
10 hours. 10 hours of TV. Writing 10 hours of TV to make that situation work, which was fucking. I mean, that show should have. And Eric will say that was one of the biggest. Going to 3 hours was horrifying. This was horrifying. If it would have stayed that, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about guest booking.
Right.
Because they wouldn't have fucked.
Right.
But these, I mean, that was, and then you get to here, and a guy gets, because it's taped here, gets hurt, then this all changes.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And it goes on and on and on. Then you got guys with creative control that at 7 o'clock on this day just say,
doesn't work for me.
Doesn't work for me, brother.
It's not a task I would have wanted.
No.
But
it was like running drugs,
But as far as the room,
yeah.
Is there kind of who's running the show? Who?
I sat at the end.
Okay.
I think Dusty sat at the other end, but it was all you sat wherever you wanted to. It was no. I didn't ever feel that there was a hierarchy. I might have started the, what do we got? But I would always like make notes of things that I thought had worked from the previous show.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't give a fuck about Thunder. I was just, because we weren't going head to head with anything on those shows. I was just more worried about, you know, trying to, you know, fill 3 hours. And we had like a period also when I first took over. We had like, I used to call them like our 12 main guys. We had like 7 of those guys down. You know, Scott was gone. They got rid of Scott.
Right.
I think Book was down. Luger was down. At one point, like I had, like Flair was like my you know, when we made him, put him in the insane asylum, like he was like the only guy that I had that could actually go out and play a character. Like, you know, like give me TV time. Give me a storyline.
But you still need to come up with 10 hours.
10 hours. So, I mean, and I'm not saying that I mean, maybe somebody else could have done a better job. I just thought it was a really, you know, it's almost saying, you know what, we got the Patriots next week, and we got 6 guys. Let's give them hell.
Was it tough to be one of the boys and still be in the creative meetings?
No, because when it comes down to like 3 guys like you anyway. You know, it just...
Did you feel that way?
Yeah. I'd never give... My whole thing in life is, if you don't like me, fuck you. I don't like you either then. I mean, if we're going to play fucking second grade. I don't do anything with... If anybody... I'd like some motherfucker that was on that television show to say that I did something against them with malice. That I booked them into something to make them look like an asshole. That I didn't have the show's, you know...
Best interest
in mind for any decision I made. The finger poke of doom, people fucking will always, but you know what? That's one of those things that got everybody. Every smart, the smarts hated the worst because every one of them were just bending over because I told them, no, the dollar bill's a little bit further. And I stuck my whole foot up their ass and took their balls in with it. They just went, I didn't see that coming.
So they want to be swerved, but they don't like it when they get swerved.
They don't want to be swerved and watch their mom raped on the Thanksgiving table at the same time. It's a little bit too much of a swerve, brother.
I forget who said this, but it's a great quote. Someone please Google it so I can give credit by the end. If you make people artistically, if you make people think they're thinking, they love you. If you make people think, they hate you.
Right.
You'll find the relevance. Just look for it. Who is the problem talent? Who is someone who consistently gave you guff?
Conan. He was my friend. I got him like a $500,000 deal, put the U.S. belt on him. He no-mossed me against Luger in the first pay-per-view, said he couldn't go anymore because he was tired. And then got like 2 weeks later, he was talking to USA Today in the building saying the creative sucked. He goes, I didn't mean you. I said, dude, I'm in charge of creative. I'm like...
What about loose cannons? Did you have loose cannons you had to deal with?
That guaranteed money shuts up a lot of bullshit.
That's true. Who in the office did you butt heads with the most at WCW?
Diana Myers. She was illegal.
What would she have had dealings with the creative team about?
Oh, just me personally.
Oh.
Like she
having nothing to do with booking decisions.
No,
She
just
liked
we just didn't like each other. I used to tell her I could out-litigate her.
Was she friendly with Lisa Wolf?
I believe they were stepsisters. Did we hear back from Lisa?
They did they handled the Jello for the picnics.
Yes.
Yeah, but Eric Yo's gone on with, I assume, right?
We had our arguments, but I mean, the good thing about Eric is you say, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, and then that night you're having a beer.
Who are the guys that wanted to pull the rug out from under you and maybe take your spot?
You know, the thing, like I wanted to put like Hogan in towards the end. I wanted to put him in a commission. Like they had Vince. You know, they had that.
WWE had
yeah,
Vince
they had
McMahon,
the Vince
yeah.
McMahon character, and we never had that character. And the only person I thought that could give credibility to that position as being the head of WCW was Hulk. And you know, so I pitched that to Hulk, and Hulk looked at me and he goes, "Brother, like you don't know how my fucking deal works. Like that cost me fucking." Because he was getting, paper, how his deal was structured wasn't deal anywhere.
Oh, right, yeah.
So he was somebody that could
He
actually.
needed main events.
Yeah, and he could also, he could spike his cash where there was no, like, if I was making $2 million, I didn't get, if I fucking was working Hoovy match 1 or Hulk match 23.
It was still $2 million.
$2 million.
But Hogan could augment it by ratings and
he got
pay-per-view
like,
buys
I
and
think
stuff,
he got like a piece of that Georgia Dome show with Goldberg. That's why they pulled the plug on that. You know, so there were like things that, and I wasn't aware of that. You know, I wasn't aware that people had actual creative control, that they could, veto. It doesn't take long to figure that out.
Right. What was one idea that never saw the light of day, but you thought could have worked?
I thought we did the Lodi and what was the other guy's name? They were.
Lenny?
What was it?
Lenny and Lodi?
Yeah, Lenny and Lodi. And what the story was that they were it was going to appear like they just had this incredible attraction to each other, and that it was but it was like they kept finishing each other's sentences. It would go on for a very, very long time, and just when you do the drop the soap and all these other things, and just these moments where they just look at each other in the shower, and it was going to be comedy. But then it was just like, because everybody wanted to jump on that, the gay wagon thing, and you find out that they were two brothers that were separated at birth. Just a little story. But as soon as you said, when there's people think they're gay, and then they don't want GLAD up their ass, so Standards and Practice comes in and says, "Fuck that." I said, "We're not even going to skirt it."
Right. They didn't want to. For the weeks leading up to the reveal, they didn't want to deal with it.
They didn't want to deal with it. Well, it's just,
I got you.
And like I said, at that same time, Val Venus is with Jenna Jameson in the shower. And they're wondering why we can't fucking draw a number.
Right. How do you respond to, well, let me ask you first. Were the internet writers and dirt sheet guys, were they your critics or supporters?
I didn't read them.
So word didn't even trickle back?
No, I didn't care.
Okay.
Like I always said, if all those guys are such great wrestling minds, I mean, anybody can Monday quarterback.
Well, that's the thing. You look at Gene Siskel and go, well, so go make a movie.
Yeah. I just always thought that, if you're so brilliant, why have you not, Meltzer, why have you not booked it for a major?
Well, but maybe can one be a really good audience member, but not a good director? Like, can you judge wine but not make wine? Probably.
I think that wine is something that's, if I put 100 people in the room, that their palates are going to be pretty close. If I give you a Parker's 93 bottle of wine, and we all sit in here and there's 100 people, they drink it, you're not going to get 45% of those people going, I'm up in the air on it. Whereas wrestling, it's, and those guys back then, before the internet exploded, those sheets had a lot of, dud. And it was every year, it was like match of the year, Abu Zago versus Naposeno in the Carokian Hall. Like, yeah, right. You fucking saw it when? You saw it from what? From fucking Oakland? Fuck you. Telescope? Fucking Hubble?
San Jose.
Is that where he's from?
Near there, right?
Yeah, fuck him. I never liked him, never will.
Let's talk about.
How's your life, buddy? Bet you ain't better than mine.
Oof.
How's that Sonata fucking treating you?
Let's talk about the big jump over for anyone that doesn't know the mechanics of it. When's the first time you are contacted by someone in
Scott
WCW?
is contacted
Scott
first.
is contacted.
Scott is contacted. Scott just went up and asked Vince basically, what am I doing wrong? He said, nothing. You're fantastic. You're doing everything I can ask you. And he says, oh, my pay's plateaued for 2 years. Like I need to make more money. And, just like, the money was tight. The money wasn't, we all heard what they made before us. It was like the new generation came along and, I think Brett was one of the ones that killed us because Brett took that belt and took it for a lot cheaper than he should have. And he could have, he should have, as the leader of us, that's one of the reasons that, when they came to me, the boys kind of were like, all right, well, this big prick he'll scream.
So that's interesting. I think you've told me this before, something about he's the $500,000 champion or something.
I don't know what he made, but he
or
did.
whatever.
Yeah,
Maybe that
I
wasn't
just,
you. Somebody called him like the $50,000 champion or something like that, meaning...
the belt meant more than the pay.
Right, and because he didn't raise the standard for what a top performer in WWE should be, that benchmark was so low that Vince could always point to it and go, well, Kev, you're asking, I got my champion making this.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't move on the scale because Brett was low.
Brett was low.
Okay.
And then, I argued pays all the time. I argued payments on almost every week. I would argue some kind of a payment where I'd say, well, because I kept books. I'd be like, well, I made $3,200 on a $60,000 house, and we go back 4 months later, we got $118,000. I make $29,000. Like, what math is that?
Right.
We spent more bullshit. You spent more advertising. You fucked me.
So Scott asks Scott asks Vince
For more money.
He doesn't get a satisfactory answer.
No. So Scott, I think he was talking to Dally, and Dallas said, "Let me see what they're willing to offer you." And I think that the numbers that came to Scott were $750, $850.
Right. So then one day, while lathering his balls in the shower, he turns to you and says,
Kev, you got a hand? No. He said, "Hey, I'm gonna go to I'm gonna go back to WCW." And I was like, he goes, "This is what they're offering me." He says, "But make sure you." He says, "I'm just the IC guy." He says, "You're the champ." He says, "Make sure you get more because I got favorite nations and it'll bump me up. So whatever you get, I'm gonna get." So I'm like, well, I said, "I'm not interested to leave." So it's I know the story's been told before. I'm sure on this, we go to that Louisville pay-per-view. Me and Brett have the cage match, and what I needed for a finish was I needed to stick Brett with a power bomb and start walking to the door like I got him beat. Take me underneath.
Yeah.
And then during all that, have Brett, dead man, crawl out. Would have never said that he was beaten.
Right.
It just made me and Mark's angle mean more because it looked like it cost me the title. Yeah. And we were going to co-main event WrestleMania. I walked out, Vince folded. We all sat in the room. Taker fucking was the first time I saw Mark jump up. He goes, "Motherfucker, everything isn't about you."
To Brett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was hot because we needed that. Like we're trying to fucking draw money.
Yeah.
And
that first scenario that you said, that was Vince's proposal of how it should go down.
The Powerball? No, that was mine.
Oh, that was yours. Okay.
I'm saying, I'm looking at the finish. I'm saying this is how I think we get the most yardage out.
Okay.
Brett stays where he's at. He's dropping the fucking belt to Shawn anyway at WrestleMania. We all know that. What the fuck does it matter if he looks strong in a cage match? Like you're gonna fucking elevate ours, which is gonna elevate buy rates, which means we all get paid more money. The minute fucking Vince folded on that, and he said, we'll just do it Brett's way. Finished that match, came back with my fucking, this leg of my pants all cut up. I walked in, I saw Scott, I said, I'll fucking be joining you.
Who, did you call Dallas at that point?
Oh, Scott called Dallas. And I called Barry Bloom. I said, Barry, I take care of my shit.
But you do still go back, if I'm not mistaken, and give Vince a chance.
Talked to him at Stockton, California. I talked to him out in front of the building. I just said, dude, I don't want to. I said, man, I said, Vince, I don't want to leave. But and people don't realize this. I appeared 2 days ago, June 10th. It was my first appearance on Nitro. My son is born June 12th.
Yes.
So my wife is 6.5 months pregnant. I don't know from fucking day to day if I'm going to be able to pay my bills still, depending on what my WrestleMania payday is. And,
Were things that bad?
Yeah, it was fucked up. We'd go to Europe and have to take $200 draws every night just to fucking go home and pay our fucking bills. It sucked.
So you tell Vince the number, right, that you'd need.
I said, you don't have to match it. I said, just guarantee it. Yeah. So I can I'm good at managing money. If you tell me I'm going to make $600,000, then fucking I can break that down to 52 weeks into time. I'll do my quarterlies. I'm going to have this left. I can buy this house, this car, do this, have this vacation. But if I don't know if I'm making fucking 210 or 600, fuck, then you're living on ravioli. Mm-hmm. And I'm not living on fire. I said, fuck this. I'm having a kid. Mm-hmm. And I got a guy that's telling me, come over here. We work at the same drive-through window. Yeah, granted, fucking it's Hardee's, but we'll pay you twice as much for half as many shifts. Okay.
Was there a lot of negotiation back and forth with Eric, or you took the deal that they offered?
They offered us that, they bumped it up. I think it was like
$750, $850, $950, right? 3 years?
But they bumped it to like $850, $950.
Okay. And then the favored nations thing where
Scott
it would be proportional. But you had that too?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So then the genius of the bring back Diesel Razor, they renegotiated, bumped us again because they thought somehow we were.
Oh, I never heard this.
Yeah, they bumped us again. They called us. This is the one that Eric has no recollection from, but boy, me and Scott do. My pager goes off. I'm in Daytona Beach. My pager goes off. I go to this convenience store on Nova Road, pick up the telephone, call the 404 number, and they said, we're sending a private plane. It's on its way to pick up Scott. It'll pick up you second. We met at Jock and Jill's restaurant in the CNN Center. Nick Lambros, Bischoff, did the deal on a napkin, shook hands, went home, and Scott and I were about $800,000 richer apiece and longer. Got like another 9 months.
Why again?
Because they thought that somehow we'd never left New York. And that fucking Vince was crazy enough.
Oh, they were sweetening the pot because they thought you were being tempted.
Well, they just thought we were leaving. That we were never, like this was our plan the whole time. Like,
did you do anything to plant that seed in their head or anything?
Not until they did.
Yeah.
Once they did on the way up, me and Scott are like, well, fuck, we gotta run with this. Like they think we're fucking bolting, man. Let's not act like, let's might not be overzealous here. If you would have saw their faces when they were at that monitor the day that fucking, I think Ross was the one that introduced them on Raw, They said, "They're Big Daddy Cool Days on Razor." And those two guys came out and they just looked at that screen and looked over at me and Scott like, "Oh, God, really?" Like, we just went like,
Wow. So they
that makes
heard
the
it.
finger poke of doom look pretty fucking weak.
That's amazing. Do you talk to Sean and Hunter and
Yeah.
and
Sean's getting his dream. You know, Sean's being anointed. That is the place. I mean, it's not like WCW was the place to be. And Hunter was undefeated. You know, Hunter was getting a hell of a push. So there was, I mean, you know, it was like Hunter always dreamt of, you know, being from New Hampshire. Had always dreamt of, there was no place he ever wanted to work except there. You know, WWE. So, and then Sean was getting his childhood dream. So, and me and Scott were getting paid.
right. Well played by Trips, I think.
Yes.
One might say.
Yes.
Was Vince angry or
Disappointed.
okay.
He understood why we made the decision. He couldn't play the game because he knew if that was the case, then Taker, Brett, Sean, all of a sudden you get what you got when we
Yeah.
left. You know.
Did you guys have any kind of like? Was there any kind of send off or a big
That
night out?
That curtain call was pretty much it.
any that wasn't captured on tape? Go to a big bar, have a
No.
going away party.
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Remember Vince's last words before you left? Was there a moment? Was there like a shaking hands?
No, I mean, he just said that when you walk out this door, Diesel dies. Which resonated because he made Diesel. You know, the only reason Turner's give me money is what Vince did. You know, Vince made the Frankenstein monster. They fucking Oz, Vinny Vegas, and Master Blaster together. Fucking, you know.
Now, coming in to WCW, what kind of atmosphere and locker room do you encounter?
By that point, Scott and I had found this niche to be about as welcome as the as the plague in the castle. So we walked in that locker room. Nobody wanted us there. I think the only time we were at least less wanted to return was in like 2002 when we came back with Hulk the other way. I think they had a vote, and Jack Lanza said, "I want him back," and they were the crickets.
Was anyone in WCW, either in the office or talent, were they looking for, like, for lack of a better word, company secrets from WWE, or did they want to know how things worked, or?
No.
No.
They were still looking at Sputnik.
Was an offer made to Sean by WCW?
No.
No.
No. We tried to come after those guys later. Like try to talk to
Right.
Taker and try to talk to Sean, and you know.
But initially, it's not.
No.
When you first come in, what are the initial plans for you guys? Is it everything that we saw, or did they have something in mind and you guys convinced them otherwise?
I mean, the violence of it, like us using baseball bats,
Right.
you know, because we needed something to equalize, you know, the fact that there were at times 7 and 8 guys out there. Mm-hmm. So we needed some kind of weapon. And I actually thought about like aluminum baseball bats, like that would be great. Mm-hmm. And then I remember the first time we went out, I think it was Charlotte, and Scott's looking at Bischoff going, "Bats or no bats? Bats or no bats?" And Bischoff's going, "No bats." And Sullivan looks over and he goes, "No bats."
Yeah.
No bats. And we're like, "Gotcha, Sully." Because Sully knew. And the thing was, we had a fake bat that Scott was going to use. and then I had a real bat. So when we went out, the first thing I did to get their attention was I hit the baseball bat off the steel post.
Right.
So bam, baseball bat cracks. Everybody around ringside is like, Jesus, those guys got baseball bats. Now Scott's got the working one.
Right.
So, you know, a couple of gut shots on guys, nothing in the head, nothing stupid, but a couple of gut shots on guys. They roll out, and it's like, wow. Then I think we went off the air with the Charlotte police guys run clipping their guns. You know, and all of a sudden it was just like, okay, this ain't your daddy's wrestling.
Right.
This ain't your mama's wrestling.
Sent a big
There's
message.
some shit going on.
In WWE, would Austin and The Rock have become what they were if you guys didn't leave?
God, I mean, they were both so talented and so good. Steve was going to make it. You know, Steve was just, and Steve was that guy that just, you know, Steve knew what was going to get over. Steve knew how to get over. Steve could work. Steve could promo. Steve just needed to, he just said, he was that Tyson. He understood Tyson. I want the black boots. I want the black trunks. I want minimalists. I want, because I see that's something that works. And I can make that work, and I can make it a redneck version of Tyson. And he did.
Yeah.
Now, you know, Dwayne, I think that, you know, his charisma, you either have that or you don't. There's no two ways about it. They gave him, you know, Rocky Maivia with the pineapple and all that. I mean, that's up there with Oz.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a pretty, you know, I mean, it's just like a racist thing almost. Like, oh, you're an island guy. We'll give you a coconut. All right. So, but, you know, I think that he emulated a lot of what Steve did and just didn't make it as redneck.
But there would have been room at the top
Yeah.
for all you guys, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, but who knows? You know, because, I mean, it wasn't like Raw wasn't going to go to 2 hours because Nitro wouldn't, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's like, but at the same time, how long before the Dungeon of Doom wears a little thin on the fans, and we start getting threes, and they start doing 1-7s, and that, you know, never comes to fruition. The thing would have never happened is one show wouldn't be doing a 7, and the other show wouldn't have been doing a 5. You know, Monday Night Football wouldn't be going, do we need to fucking move this thing? I mean, those are the things. And then on top of that, we don't leave, there's not guaranteed money.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things, you know. Is there an attitude era without attitude?
You know, here we are up in Titan Tower, and Kev, upon deciding to stay and take the book here in June of 1996, you have any observations about the roster?
I think at this point I actually call Powers' booth and ask him how he played Jimmy Jones. Almost everybody on this roster is a gimmick.
Yeah, it's coming up on your screen now. You're going to see, too, you're going to see the WWF roster at the time of his taking the book. Then there's going to be a second screen coming up where you're going to see the incoming talent throughout the year, from June till the end of the year, that Kevin will be able to say, yeah, well, this talent comes in and we use him, or maybe, no, this person doesn't come in. So upon looking at this, yes, it is pig farmers and goons and the like.
Executioners.
Hunters, or the stalkers, as
Stalker,
called here, yeah.
Because, I mean, Barry Windham did have a nice little career, you know, for a while there. He's just a rangy, good athletic worker.
Yeah.
But, I mean, put him in camouflage, give him some kind of a compound bow that he'll never be able to use in the ring. That's money.
It seems to me like you're going to, as the new boss of creative, undo maybe the direction that the entire company's taking at this point, which is going towards characters. Can't do it overnight, obviously. How do you phase out characters and make them people again?
I think you would have to come up with a character that, and this is why I'm saying the Jimmy Jones thing, that somebody that would have some kind of mind control and be able to systematically like work and kind of, have like a huge faction, that just kind of Farouk with Ron Simmons. I'm going to bring in a guy that's a shoot, runner-up in the Heisman, and I'm going to put the Spartacus helmet on him.
Mm-hmm. So they're going to drink some mythical Kool-Aid and lose the gimmick.
Yeah, we're going to lose some gimmicks.
Are there any gimmicks that worked? Let's say that first. So maybe maybe Brawler can be Brawler.
Brawler can be Brawler.
Taker, obviously.
Yeah,
would be
Taker. I mean, he's the greatest character of all time. Gimmick character.
Did you prefer Leaf Cassidy or Al Snow?
I liked Al Snow.
Okay. I'm just looking at some others that worked. I don't see any others.
I'm taking that Phineas, and the pig farmers aren't going to be pig farmers.
Will they be there still, or?
Yes, they'll be there, but they'll be more of a. They got rid of the pigs and grabbed Warren Oates and Deliverance.
So on the incoming talent roster, if Neidhart comes back, if Bill Irwin does come, if Barry comes, and Ron and Don, they'll come, but they won't come as the associated gimmick. They'll come as their
fighters,
worker name.
Yeah,
okay,
just fighters.
All right.
But that's all. All they did with this was they just made factions of fighters. Like Taker had his, band of biker gang, and the Nation of what are they called?
Nation of Domination.
Nation of Domination brought. They had Farouk and Rock and that group.
So assuming you and Scott don't leave, by not leaving and going to WCW and getting paired as the Outsiders, maybe you're not working together in WWF.
No.
Okay. So you guys stay separate.
Because there was no money in tags. I mean, that was a kiss of death.
Right. Anyone here on the main roster underutilized by Vince and the office? And maybe after stripping away the goofy character, is somebody you could give a good push to?
I mean, they had, Steve is the hell was his gimmick? What was it? Yeah, the Ringmaster. I mean, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to be in black boots and black tights. I mean, that's just what he wanted to do. And I would have let, Steve, broke in before I did. I'd let Steve do whatever the hell he wanted to do.
Even in '96, you were able to identify that's...
I was the one that got Vince to hire him. And I was like, this guy's great.
Okay.
And they just didn't see it. And they gave him that kind of flare comb-over, blonde hairdo, and Steve didn't want anything to do with it. Yankin was always, Glenn was always.
Glenn. Mm-hmm.
That was a big, giant dude, and they make, give him, he's a dentist with bad teeth. If there isn't heat there, I don't know what is. I'm a dentist with bad teeth. I'm a barber with a bad haircut. I mean, just that rudimentary, just 101 heat.
Yeah, but Ahmed Johnson there too,
Wow.
What could you do with him?
Not work with him myself.
Any enemies? Any enemies you'd like to put him in the ring with?
Oh boy, he was a strong man.
So let's start with you, and talk about where you might go over the course
All right,
of
I'm definitely gonna go
1996. Okay.
Because I was kind of tweenering it at that point.
How would you make this more definitive? How would you make it yourself a more definitive heel?
I mean, because I left, I did. Because in leaving, I went after Sean, cracked him with a chair, then we went into the Omaha, basically hardcore match. So I mean, by doing those things, the thing is, like we go into WrestleMania. Does Diesel need a shot in the arm? And do I get a win on Taker at WrestleMania 12?
So down the road, maybe that's the goal.
Which in retrospect kills the streak, which is one of probably the greatest things that ever happens. But is it something that we talk about to get my character back on track after I Wish You a Merry Christmas a year earlier? That's just speaking for me, but and I don't think there was I think at that point the talk of Taker's run at WrestleMania was, my God, a guy so talented has had the shittiest people to work with in the like what bum are they going to give him this year?
So what would the angle look like with Taker for WrestleMania to be the blow-off?
I don't know if it's a blow-off. I think that what you would have had to have done here, while you repackaged the mid-card to underneath guys, was to keep that core group of 8 guys. Like Sean was where he needed to be. And, Taker with the belt does nothing. Like putting Mark to chase the belt does nothing. They never, they were, Brett and Sean at that point were oil and water. They just didn't, that wasn't going to work out. But, a Razor Ramon turn at that point would not have been a bad thing, because he hadn't been a heel in a long time, and he could have went after that belt.
So that could actually be a second storyline that we can work on.
Yes, we go Hall heel. And then if I'm gonna take the belt off of Sean, I'm gonna put it on Scott.
How far out? Is this like a WrestleMania goal for the following year?
I say that I'd go maybe SummerSlam.
Okay, so
Maybe have Sean drop it to Scott at SummerSlam. I have Hunter beating Goldust for the IC belt.
same show, SummerSlam or further out.
I'm
do that right away.
Yeah, immediately, because he's undefeated.
Okay.
I still do the Ultimate Warrior Triple H match at 12 with Paul going over.
So, okay, so Hunter, IC title from Goldust.
God, I'm really click friendly, aren't I?
I was going to say, I've seen a pattern here.
God, imagine that.
You can see the reviews already of the disc. So, all right, so you've got a quick title change here, and then a little further out SummerSlam, and then you and Taker at Mania. Get me to each one. What are some of the things that need to happen so that
Taker and I are going to Mania. If I don't leave, Taker and I still went to Mania with him. So Taker and I are still going to go to 12. So we could have because we just had a straight match. So we could go back and have any kind of gimmick match. We could have the casket match where he beats me,
here?
Yeah.
Okay. How long would you put yourself married to him before the switch the following March? If we're in June here, and this would be August for SummerSlam, and then out here I'm in March.
Right.
How long would you be with him before it gets? You don't want it to get tired.
No.
But you want some drama.
We still have Yoke. We still have Brett.
What would your plans for Brett be?
He was I thought he was he's so solid. He's a good champion. So,
Could he continue to work Shawn?
I don't think at that point.
Okay.
Because I would have went for a Triple H. Because back then it was the IC champ wrestled the heavyweight champion at King of the Ring.
Okay, which was what month?
That was June or July.
Summer. Okay.
I'd have had HBK go over there and break the streak. And then right after that would be after he broke that streak, the next pay-per-view would be against Scott, and he would drop it to Scott. So
Okay, I see here. So
See what
okay,
I'm saying?
so
yeah, so
yes.
it'd be King of the Ring. Shawn would beat Triple H and break that streak, which would be great for Shawn. And looks like that we're really going to go with him. And then we do the swerve and put Scott over on Shawn at SummerSlam.
Gotcha. So this isn't even so Hall and Shawn isn't necessarily part of an angle leading up to this. Maybe that's
Yeah.
the swerve you're saying. It's Triple H and Shawn
because
building up here.
once I put the belt on Scott, then I've got Brett to run at Scott. I got Taker to run at Scott.
So you got Brett.
Brett and Scott are money. Taker and Scott are money. Yoko and Scott are money.
Who would be your WrestleMania for Scott the following year?
Knowing that Baracus is in the tube. I go Scott versus Brett WrestleMania.
What's the finish?
Nobody makes it out of WrestleMania alive.
What's that?
Nobody makes it out of WrestleMania alive. I think I was the only one in the 90s.
Is any stips in that match, or just?
No, I think because the thing is how long is it going to take me to get, yank him at a position where he's going with Yoko and he's going with Taker and he's going with me. Like how long before we can repackage him,
Right.
To make him viable, The Smoking Guns are great. They're a great tag team, but, Sid and Kid were good. That's like, Sid and Kid is a real formidable tag team. They can do a lot of things, and you can work a lot more combination against those two with a big small than you can 2 6'5" big monsters.
Right. So Hall's tied up for the whole year with. From SummerSlam on.
Yeah,
after
but the heel turn. He's going to go through a lot of these guys. We're repackaging because he's just going to go. He'll go through that second layer.
How can we turn him?
He's a natural heel. Let Scott be Scott.
But is there an event? Is he turning on someone? Is he?
I think
Is it just in a promo?
I just think it's what drove Scott to go to Atlanta in the first place. Just his disgruntled. I'm tired of being a fucking starving artist. I want some fucking coin.
So bring that shoot, bring it through
Right.
to TV.
And that's what it was. He told him. He said, fuck, man, if you can't pay me, he said, does it really kill you to move that fucking decimal point, fucking one little fucking notch? Because it means a lot to the Hall family.
So he cuts promo on the company.
Yeah, on Vince. Just on Vince. And he says, fuck this, man, I'm done. I'm tired of being a starving artist. I want some coin.
So then
And I put in the background say, hell yeah.
and that gets us to Shawn, King of the Ring. No, actually, Shawn over Triple H in that
Right.
heavyweight title versus IC title, and then Scott takes it from Shawn, works Brett, Taker, and Yoko, getting eventually to just Brett
WrestleMania
at
with Brett.
WrestleMania. Okay, how about now? Trips doing the IC.
Trips does the IC. Now he's he loses that to Sean, and now Sean's the IC champ, which, I mean, you could run. Now we can run 2 towns with Sean on. We can put Sean on top of the second town
Right.
with that IC strap, and so now you're getting you're getting.
So Hall going over him in SummerSlam frees him up now to work the IC belt.
Right. Yeah, we showcase that IC belt.
Is he done with Goldust after he
Yeah,
takes it, or
yeah.
does this extend?
I mean, right there is where I would probably plug Hunter and Steve together.
Okay.
You know, when he gets that IC, I'm not saying that I don't drop it to Steve, that Steve doesn't break that, and then I put Steve to go after Sean. You know, it just
Right.
depends on how quick we can get Steve up and running.
Right.
'Cause me and Steve are close. Like, we're really good friends. We've traveled almost 3 years together at WCW. So it's just, I'm going to push the fuck out of him because I know he's got it.
Right.
So it just depends how quick you can get all those plugged in. But I'm plugging Steve into that mix. Fucking, it may very easily be.
So Sean and Steve
Yeah.
for maybe Summer. Is that something you want to work towards at WrestleMania, or do you think?
Yeah, I think I'd want to. Yeah, build Steve and make that a Sean, because you got Hall, Brett, Sean, Steve. You're gonna have Hunter versus somebody good.
Does he ever come back in the Intercontinental picture here at all? Is
Hunter?
it flip flopping? Yeah, I mean, is he still? Is there going to be a couple of flip flops
think-
between him and Sean? Or?
At that point, that belt was kind of the flip floppy belt. That was every 3 months somebody else got it, and then they took the shot at the world title. It started to already become that kind of quasi fucking. This was the pattern.
Right. So there could be some of that in there with.
I would try
Triple
not
H?
to. I
Oh, you tried not to.
tried not to get that pattern. I tried to stay away from anything that was a pattern we were doing, and hopefully at this time I've got, huge fan of Mick Foley's, underutilizing Jake. We're not using Jake at all. Bradshaw is a big raw bone dude, so okay, hindsight, because I actually foresight, because I have a crystal ball. I actually put Bradshaw and Ron Simmons together as a tag team. I don't know where I get that at,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Good idea.
Yeah, hell of an idea.
To keep trips in the picture here, is maybe WrestleMania Sean, Steve, and Triple H three-way, or you're not into the triple threat?
I don't like a triple threat for the champ. I don't like any match where somebody can beat somebody and
Not
beat the champion. I don't like those rules.
Gotcha.
But me and Triple H we could have a nice little
So after
It wouldn't be hard. It wouldn't be hard. I mean, we could slowly turn Triple H during that year too.
So after he loses it in July, maybe at SummerSlam, we're saying.
Yeah, I could wrestle him. I put Paul over.
Okay, so Triple H.
Yeah, Triple H goes over. At this point now, we're trying to build guys that have already gotten their fucking pushes. Now we got Scott in a better position, got Triple H in a better position, got Steve in a better position. Brett, Taker, Yoko are set. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be at the top of the pay chain.
Does your putting Hunter over at SummerSlam diminish your working with Taker at Mania?
No, because I got September, October, November, December, January, I get a huge Rumble win. You know, well, how about I go over? You know, like maybe the third guy left at the Rumble or something like that. You know,
So you win the Rumble.
I can't win it because I'll be in the title.
That's right. You'll be the
But
title.
you know, like maybe the next to last guy and have a good showing,
Right.
and maybe I eliminate Taker in that, which gives us our showdown at WrestleMania, which then I return the favor.
So that's how you get,
Yeah.
eliminates.
This is pretty fucking trying. I no sleep, just
It's not hard.
and then
You
I
may
got-
look back and think, what the fuck
what the
did
fuck was I
do?
doing? Why didn't I take better care of myself? What the fuck was
I was going to
thinking?
say, you're the weakest one up here.
I don't give a fuck. I'm booking. I can be fucking hot in a week,
Since this is the fantasy world,
right?
we don't have to limit ourselves to only the people who did come in. Who would you go after in WCW
Not a fucking soul.
that you thought? No, I don't.
Sting. Sting would have been. I mean, he was. You know, I would have went after Sting for sure. I would try to get the Steiners back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were my boys. I mean, they know they were protected if I was booking.
Well, that's a good question. The tag team scene here is rather weak. Would it have been a focus for you to?
I like tag wrestling.
Okay.
I mean, you know, and you've got a lot of guys on here that just, you know, Yoko and Fatu would have been a good. That's a good tag team. Because Junior can work his ass off, and so could. I mean, it's not like they're big dudes, but
What could Warrior have done at this time?
shake the ropes. I just didn't see. It was just kind of a Rocky Horror Picture Show, just kind of time warp.
It had its moment,
Yeah.
and that was it. Okay.
But if he was, and the thing was, it wasn't like you were going to get Warrior to become Jim. Like you're
No,
going,
he would have
going
to-
away from, you're going away from this,
Right.
and he's about as much of a cartoon character as you can possibly be.
Right. And wouldn't work as Jim Hellwig, so
No.
maybe this would be the phasing out of the Warrior altogether.
It just depends. I'd have to sit down and talk to him.
Mm.
Maybe maybe put a comic book in the back of all of our magazines or something. Oh wait, they did that.
Okay, so
Dick.
who would you put Sting with? You mentioned Sting. Good suggestion.
Well, I mean, I could work Sting. If I'm going to be a heel, got him coming in white hot off their TV. I'd be more than happy to make him.
So would you do this off the bat?
If we can get him in June, we get him. He jumps.
Okay.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I'd love to work with Steve. This is the colorful Sting.
Not the Crow.
No,
Right. So this will solidify you as a heel, working with the
with Sting. Yeah.
iconic baby face.
I don't even have to get involved. I mean, I could take that for take it and run it for a while.
You got to be freed up in August for Triple H. Could this in any way lead to Triple H, or is this kind of going to become an independent event?
God, I would hope that I'd have somebody else as a heel like up and really running at that. And I think Jake would be my guy.
Really?
I think I would, yeah, because I just think that Jake was underutilized right there. I think that we could have got some mileage out of Jake. He was smart as fuck, he could work around his limitations.
And put him where again?
Well, I mean, just
As a separate angle,
yeah,
not related to
I'm just saying, just
Okay.
to put him in the mix to work with, I think,
of the top heels. You're saying he
yeah,
would be. Okay.
I put him in that top 6 heel spot.
How long would you do you see these champions as long-term champions?
I think I think the thing is on this is when you handed me this and I looked at this talent roster, it's just like it doesn't matter what the fuck you do until you get guys out of hockey jerseys and
Right.
I mean until you really know what you have. You know, PJ was a good worker.
Right. That's true.
Take the
too.
jock strap off of PJ.
Right. They could kind of create their own spot
Yeah.
by getting out from under the character.
You know, the Godwins. I mean, especially Henry. He was a good hand. You know, he was a big raw bone. Phineas could work too, but you know, Henry had a better body, was thicker. You know, he could. I mean, you know, you get him in a as a big rugged kind of Billy Jack baby face. You run yank him at him, and that's a nice mid card, two big giant dudes that can work.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, but like I said, you know, you got to get the fucking bad teeth out of his mouth. You got to, you know, wonder. I mean, you got Pillman.
Something that's worth noting is that Rocky Maivia comes in somewhere in this June till the end of the year thing here.
I remember him being green, but I remember him having. I mean, he was 275. He was 6'5". I mean, he definitely had presence. I would have had to like sat down and got to know the guy.
Right.
Half the problem is, you know, that they. But Vince did do that. Vince sat down and talked to these guys, and you know
Well, clearly here, though, in the character, although maybe he was deriving characters from their personal likes.
Right,
Like, was
I
Bill
don't-
Irwin a hockey fan?
I don't know. I pray.
Was Barry Windham a hunter?
No.
Flat,
He hunted
no.
tail. I mean, there's a lot of like they put Marty and Al together. You know,
Jannetty?
yeah, they put them together. They were, you know, Eric and Chad. That wasn't going to work. Once again, the Team Techno was just. I don't think was Techno ever over here?
The music?
Like for a week.
I guess in the clubs. Could Mick have worked on
Yes.
top with you guys?
Mick was ready as Cactus Jack. He could have.
Would you have done the Mankind, Dude Love,
No.
Mick Foley? You just kept him Cactus or Mick?
I would have. Whatever he was comfortable with.
Okay.
I think he was more comfortable as Mankind. But we didn't own Cactus Jack, so we would have had to change that. Because WCW owned the rights to that.
Did they or did he? Because he'd been doing that for.
I don't know. Who knows?
But you wouldn't have had him do the multiple personality thing.
No.
Okay.
You know, I've heard him say many times, like, you know, I'm not the guy with the fucking sock on my hand.
Right.
You know, I'm the fucking hardcore. I'm the hardcore fucking dude. And that's, you know, and bringing, like, that's somebody, you know, that knowing, of course, what we know now, I mean, there's a perfect guy that always go attack Taker. You know? He's always that guy that they can give Taker. And then knowing what I know with what Hunter can do with Taker, what Sean can do with Taker in those Hell in a Cells. You know, of course, this is all through the crystal ball.
Right.
But I mean, you know, then Davey Boy's still. I mean, Davey Boy and Owen are still there. You know, great
Yes.
talents.
So I don't have a roster for this, but ECW is really starting to heat up here, and nobody's going to really come over. They're not being recognized by WWE. And
Yeah, I'm taking that 7'2" 911.
for about 9 minutes, 11 seconds total.
Until I find out he's 6'4".
Total ring time. Is there anyone there that would have piqued your interest? Because you would have been getting in on the ground floor of something here. They don't really begin to emulate the product or take any talent for a while yet.
Right. think at that point, like I remember Brett had one of the best lines. Somebody asked him about ECW, and he said, it's kind of like pornography. Like that's how it's like we were wrestling and they were pornography.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I watched it on the Sunshine Channel when I came home, whenever I could catch it.
Right.
Because I just always thought it was great to see somebody get hit by like frying pans, Tyrannosaurus Rex, shotgun blast to the chest, and then roll up as the finish.
But but were there no diamonds in the rough? Were there no people you could look down and, or even people you knew before? Like
Bam Bam. I mean,
right.
Bam Bam. I always was a fan of his. If we could have got him back, I definitely would have, because he's a guy that can go with Taker, with Yoko, with anybody. He's known.
What about Raven? Would he have been of any interest?
I've always been a Scott Levy fan. I mean, he's a guy that, and we didn't have anybody dark, like that.
Right.
He could have pulled, that could have been a guy that could have actually pulled a couple of these yoky-doke ham and egg guys into like a flock.
Gotcha. A great way for them to lose
right.
the character.
And then
the cult leader convinces
right.
them to. Yeah.
And maybe Raven's the guy that does. He's my
the
Kool-Aid
Jim
guy.
Jones. Yeah, interesting.
Maybe Raven's my Kool-Aid guy. I couldn't think of anybody better.
So are you Nash? Are you Diesel? What the hell are you? I'm writing Nash, but you are Diesel.
I'm Diesel.
You're Diesel.
I'm Big Daddy Cool.
Okay. Hall, yourself, Triple H, are you guys going to become more centralized and yourselves and less character-y?
Yeah, and the thing is, through all this though, is the underlying thing would be that I would be pulling the click.
Clearly.
But pulling it a certain way to where it's like, then you do your curtain call moment, where these guys come out of this,
Would there be a faction?
and they become a faction. That's what I mean. All the NWO and DX was
right.
fucking the click.
Right.
So I mean, to me, like, however I get there, I'm going to get with my four buddies, and we're going to be whatever we're going to be. But that would be, and then Taker, the BSKs are their faction, and now you've got, because that faction warfare worked, especially if the factions were well written and had proper talent.
Right.
You can't have the red and black versus the white and black NWO. That just
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden Hall leaves me because I need a cool guy in the black and white.
So they.
Because Brett always, Brett's always a lone wolf. Brett's that guy. He doesn't need anybody.
Yeah, of your top guys, yeah, Steve would probably fit the lone wolf category.
Steve's a lone wolf. He's,
Would the character of Mr. McMahon have been created in a Kevin Nash booking world? Would he step through the curtain as a character?
Well, I mean, I cut a promo against him, but I cut it kind of like at the corporate level. Like I'm not doing your bullshit anymore. I didn't cut it directly at Vince, but I think Hall would have cut his directly at Vince McMahon.
Would Vince have become a wrestler?
No.
Under Kevin Nash's
No.
watch? No.
No, he already had a bad neck. I would have protected him.
Well, what would Vince have said to this?
Kevin, I think you and Scott will do a good job in Atlanta.
If you didn't head there already first when you took a look, when you were handed this.
Oh, yeah, I'm gone. I'm gone.
Told to make chicken salad out of that.
Wow. I don't even see how you know what? And that's basically why we beat them for 2 years. It took them 2 years to get out of this shithole.
Yeah.
You know, we were real. You know, we were had that very West Coast rap to us, very death row, and we were white boys, and they didn't have anything on this roster. You know, you got a strong, proud black man in Ron Simmons, and you got him in a Spartacus outfit. Yeah. Like that, you know, it wasn't until we did our NWO that then they became a strong black faction. But in the meantime, he's Gladiator.
So if there is an overarching theme to what you would have done as Booker, maybe it would be keep it real.
Have to be. I mean, that's where, and I've said this a billion times, I'll say it again, you know, in the movie Heat, at the end of that movie when they're running and Pacino's chasing Robert De Niro, and you sit there and it's clear that De Niro is the heel and Pacino is the cop and he's a babyface, and everybody in that theater wants De Niro to shoot Pacino in the face. And that's where society was going, and this Eric Troy Watts and Chad Travis Fortune just fucking Con Air 2.
Kevin, thank you very much for lending us your insight. As always, it's been a fun journey.
Glad I could make some more friends tonight.
This was yeah. Send your postcards and well wishes to
honestly, when you looked at that
Florida.
with me,
you know what? The first time I looked at it, there was a wow moment. But this period, though, I do remember. I can go back and look and say I was watching ECW for a reason,
right.
and it was because it was what we were starved for here. We were getting maybe in dosages in ECW, but it was at least an elixir that tasted different and was completely different.
Like I said, I watched it in the Sunshine Channel when I was down home in Florida,
right.
And I mean, I enjoyed it.
Thanks for watching.